πολιτικές φάσματος στο νέο ψηφιακό οικοσύστημα πέμπτης γενιάς είναι ο τίτλος της τέταρτης ενότητας. Καλώ το συντονιστή και τους ομιλητές της τέταρτης ενότητας να ανέβουν στη σκηνή.
Please come, join us. We will conduct the discussion in English, so relax, the ones who have translations on. You don't need it. Please take your seat. First, next to me. Vladimir, you're here. Yeah. Luigi, you're next to Vladimir. There you are. Yeah. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the president of the regulator, ΕΕΤΤ, and the people who have worked for this Congress. They've done an excellent job assembling a panel of experts from different points of view and contributions in this industry. So what is a highlight of this Congress is that we have attracted people from around the world who can contribute in the discussion of how to build excellence in deploying 5G networks in Greece and in Europe. So in the panel today, we have Branimir Stantchev, who is heading Spectrum for Wireless Broadband in the European Commission, and Luigi Ardito, who is head of policy for 5G in Qualcomm, and Jaime Alfonso, who is vice president of the regulator, the NRA, in Portugal, and is also participating and leading, has a leading role in European regulatory affairs. Ulrich Rechius, who is heading the spectrum policy at Nokia, and is also doing leading work at 5GPP. And Stefan Pentland, who is Group Public Policy Head and Head of Spectrum in Vodafone, and he's also leading his team in doing work in GSMA and in the working group at FREG. So we aim today to present to you the logistics. We'll have short presentations, and then we'll go into Q&A, which hopefully will be participative with all of us. So just a few introductory notes from my side. Our discussion today takes place in the context of a European discussion. Europe is in front of a great challenge. The discussion is around how to drive country members into delivering a roadmap for digital transformation, participating in discussion under the framework of the fourth industrial revolution. Part of this discussion has to do with the digital transformation. So the broadband networks are at the heart of this transformation. The core networks transform to become software-defined, which is not to be underestimated. We're not just talking about transformation at the access, and we hope to highlight some of these points in this discussion today. There is discussion about delivering higher speed 4G networks, 4G plus networks, and developing the fundamentals, defining the principles for 5G networks. So at the same time, we have platforms that are being developed, platforms that will be able to house and provide services across Europe, across the world, in each and every European country for applications like smart home, smart energy, water management, vehicle management, etc. So in the future, we're talking about a future where millions of devices will be connected in every single country, billions around the world, gradually transforming every industry across all industries for the Greek economy, the European economy, and globally. So we're in the very beginning of a gradual and speedy transformation of all industrial sectors. So this transformation is a concrete chance for Greece to develop plans to transform the economy and to utilize the investments and infrastructure that is core in the debate of this discussion today. So without further ado, I would like to ask Mr. Stantchev from the European Commission to initiate our discussion and introduce your remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll go to the...
Yes, please, John, take the...
Yeah, which one is for changing this? Yes. Thank you very much for this introductory remarks. And I would like also to thank the Greek regulator for this kind invitation. 5G is one of the hottest topics discussed today at the European level. And we have different events, workshops, conferences almost every week, but these should not be concentrated in Brussels. They should take place everywhere in each member state. That's why it's very important to have this session also today in Greece, as well as in other also neighboring member states. I would like to present the major elements of the Commission's 5G action plan. This plan was adopted last year together with other instruments. So maybe it will be good first to give this overview of the European 5G framework. So what is relevant in terms of European instruments for the 5G development and deployment. Last year in September, the Commission adopted the so-called connectivity package for Europe. It contains, in the first place, a communication which defines new broadband targets until 2025. These are essentially three for the year 2025. One is that all EU households are connected at speeds of at least 100 megabit per second, which are upgradable up to 1 gigabit per second. That, secondly, all relevant or main socioeconomic drivers, such as universities, research centers, schools, hospitals, are connected at gigabit speeds, and that we have uninterrupted 5G connectivity in urban areas and along major transport paths. The second instrument of this connectivity package is the 5G action plan, which I will go into more detail into. And the third, and not by far not last, is the proposal for the review of the telecom framework at the European level, and this is the European Electronic Communications Code. The objective here is to make the telecom framework 5G ready. We have, of course, some sectorial initiatives which are relevant to 5G. I will mention only two of them. The 5G private-public partnership, which was initiated back in 2013, and currently, so this is a research and development framework. Currently, we are approaching phase 2 of this partnership, the projects under Horizon 2020, which deal with developing and demonstrating 5G capabilities. In the area of transport in particular, last year there was the adoption of the strategy on cooperative intelligent transport systems, or CITS. What is the motivation behind the 5G action plan? Certainly, a lot of rapid technology developments have taken place recently, which lead to the introduction of novel services, mainly and as a differentiator in the domain of the Internet of Things. This is a critical mass of development which requires a new degree of policy approach and regulatory adaptation in order to tackle new challenges in the market developments. The second point is the overall strategy on the digital single market. which aims at enabling sectors to transform digitally through improved access to connectivity. And we want also to coordinate better in order to avoid mistakes done in the past. For example, in terms of 4G take-up, we had quite a bit of a difference between the fast movers and the late movers in the way how spectrum was also authorized. So the 5G action plan outlines more operational, short-term tasks. It is a method of soft coordination. It's not a law, a piece of law. And by the way, it was endorsed just a couple of days ago by the European Parliament, who gave their support. And the purpose of this plan is to enable a coordination at the EU level for the concerted 5G introduction. There was a similar effort with 3G, where back in '98, I think, we had a council decision on the introduction of UMTS, the third generation of telecom networks. And now we want to have a similar but much wider effort. I want to mention here also the overall acceleration of the international agenda on 5G. We have already very fast movers outside Europe. In the US, two major companies, Verizon and AT&T, have announced trials on 5G connectivity. Also in Korea and Japan, there are similar announcements regarding demonstration of 5G connectivity for the Olympic Games in Korea in 2018, in Japan in 2020. And we have a similar development also in China. The international developments have many commonalities, but also some differences. In Europe, the European focus on 5G is quite balanced. We want to develop next generation of broadband connectivity, but what is the real added value here is to enable the digital transformation of industry. And this is the so-called concept of vertical sectors, the sectors which will benefit most from the new ways of digital connectivity. These sectors are, in the first place, which seems now to be the leading one, is the transport sector, the automotive, first of all, so the connected cars. Also, we have the energy sector, the sector of industrial manufacturing, Industry 4.0, also media and entertainment, but also healthcare, so e-health. And these need very high-quality wireless connectivity, which should deliver them the specific parameters they need. What is the approach taken in the 5G action plan regarding this coordinated deployment of 5G? Basically, we have 3 stages. As of 2018, so as of next year, we should aim at wide 5G experiments and field trials, which involve these vertical sectors. 2020 should be the year to mark first commercial deployments, at least in one city in each member state. And around 2025, we should have the more massive deployment of 5G, first of all in urban areas and along transport paths. Let me just explain in more detail the major elements of the 5G action plan. It covers basically 5 areas and contains 8 distinct actions. The first area is more the recognition of common objectives and common planning, common schedules. So here the actions, the action aims at ensuring a common timetable to meet the connectivity targets, which I already presented at the beginning. This means that each member state, including Greece, should adopt a 5G national roadmap and integrate this into the national broadband plan. This planning should include ideas about how initial deployment should take place, so the first 5G city, and also recognize support for field trials. The second major area is on radio spectrum. Here we aim at having timely identification of bands which are suitable for 5G, not only, but which are suitable for the new systems. And these bands should be also timely made available to the market for access, for effective use, which covers several steps. The third area is on dense networks. So network densification is one of the elements of 5G to ensure the very high connectivity, high-level connectivity required, the quality levels. This essentially means deployment of small cells, connecting them to the wider network through fiber, so that here we need metrics which monitor the overall progress of deployment of small cells and fiber, and also administrative best practice for the deployment of these small cells. Currently, there are a lot of barriers in different member states. The fourth area is also very important. This is the technology standardization. This is not an effort which depends solely on Europe. It is an international effort, but here European effort should be to influence standardization. This should encompass not only the radio access, but of course the core network, because 5G will lead to fundamental changes in the concept of the core network. I would like to mention here only the concept of network slicing, of providing network slices which aim at ensuring connectivity for a particular service. And the fifth area regarding more the business aspect and the demand side is to promote the schedule of trials, including the vertical sectors, and also to ensure that the public sector becomes one of the first users of 5G services, for example, in the domain of public safety and protection. And on this last slide, I would like just to touch upon the issue of spectrum. Spectrum will be a key enabler of 5G, and here we have made already significant progress at the European level. The so-called Radio Spectrum Policy Group, which is an advisory body to the Commission, has identified the so-called pioneer bands, the first bands which should be used as a priority for experiments, trials, and for commercial deployments. These are a sort of a mix of one low-frequency band, the 700 megahertz, mid-frequency band, 3.6, and a high-frequency band, 26 gigahertz. Such a mixture addresses the needs of different 5G services. The 700 MHz band is the one which should provide universal coverage at appropriate speeds, which are reasonably high. Then we have the 3.6 band, which probably is the most important one, as it offers a reasonable coverage, but also a good capacity to deploy mobile data speeds of the next generation. And we have, for very high capacity purposes, the 26 gigahertz band, which is a new one and has to be released in Europe. This is a slide I have used from the 5G PPP, which very well illustrates the dependence of 5G infrastructure fabric from spectrum. Okay, with this, I will stop here and probably then continue in the session, interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir.